out like last June. Words mean nothing but these stats do. Read it on my tattoo. Beauty in the struggle, I got everything they lack. Ooh. Ignorance is bliss. I don't wanna know my future. Cause if I knew I'd blow, I probably wouldn't work as hard. Maybe this could be the death of me. Giving in my all until there's nothing left of me. Trusting what's ahead, I wanna live for everything. Pray to God my family never has to see a rest in peace. Yeah, 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 yeah. I got one night in you, yeah. Tell me why you wanting this, all you. Never really been the one to set the mood. But the candle's burning, baby, we gon' let it burn slow. Got lights, cameras in this bitch, so baby, let's go. You got one chance to get it, show me why you made her. These groupie girls tryna get me caught up fornicating. Falling for me cause they all probably think I'm famous. Just so they can say that they almost had my baby, let's go. And I'm like, let it go, let it go, let it go. I got one night in your city, you know how this ends, right? I'm like, let it go, let it go, let it go. I got one night in your city, you know how this ends, right? Yeah. I got one night in your city, you know how this ends, right? I got one night in your city, you know how this ends, right? You be loved, cause I never fall in love for real. Baby, show me what you want. So, I don't even blame you, cause the way you do it right back to me got me going crazy. Yeah, yeah, no tripping, unless I'm flying to you. New York City women look like nothing. My sound say I always sing amazing. Baby, tell me when you're down, you know that I'll be there. Let's go. And I'm like, let it go, let it go, let it go. I got one night in your city, you know how this ends, right? I'm like, let it go, let it go, let it go. I got one night in your city, you know how this ends, right? Yeah. I got one night in your city, you know how this ends, right? I got one night in your city, you know how this ends, right? Send me those pics that you don't put up on the gram. Look like a goddess, oh my lord, oh my oh man. Send me those pics that you don't put up on the gram. Look like a goddess, oh my lord, oh my oh man. Yeah, yeah, and I'm like, let it go, let it go, let it go. I got one night in your city, you know how this ends, right?
What's up, everyone? Happy Tuesday. Sorry about no stream yesterday. I got caught up a little busy, but here we are today. 300 of you here now, so let's get started. I don't see anyone in the chat, but feel free to ask questions if you need to. So for the last several weeks, I've made the claim that we're likely close to the end of the bull run or just completely done. We've obviously lost structure here. For those of you that are new, I sold here, right? I sold at 97,000. I ended up buying anywhere between down here. I came out publicly and said, hey guys, I'm starting my DCA right when we hit 17,500. Again, a lot of those metrics were based on the monthly charts. But now looking forward, we've dropped $17,000 from where I sold. Am I happy with it? Not really. I'll be honest with you. I'm happy with the Bitcoin profits, but I did have a lot of stuff in altcoins which really didn't perform at all. I had a lot of break evens that I held for 3 years. I had some good ones, right? Like Tau did well, Link did well. Fetch actually sold for like 10% profit, even though I bought it at 55 cents. Definitely unfortunate, but still walked away profitable, so can't be too angry. You can't predict the fact that we don't get an alt cycle, or I guess an alt season. Let's go ahead and get started. What am I expecting? What am I looking at? Guys, this has been my plan for the S&P 500 for the last several weeks. I really don't see how at least we don't get this scenario, possibly this scenario. I think a lot of people that are, yes, is Trump's policy change a little bit to blame? Absolutely, it's kickstarting it, but check this out, right? We've moved up 80% without, well, really, I mean, we got a nice correction here. What is this, 10% or so? So 11% correction here. But since this bottom, I mean, we've moved up 50% without a real long correction. And I understand we had like a 2 or 3 week here. But even still, we've seen parabolic upwards price action. We ended up getting a double top confirming, and now we're losing multiple levels of support with the confirmation of the double top, as well as the major macro support at 5,600. In my opinion, we go lower. How much lower? I'm unsure. I'm at least expecting 52, possibly 5,000. That would be a total, I believe that's a total of a 20%. Yeah, 20% correction, which is close to the recession average. Guys, if we correct 20%, that is a great time to begin DCAing into the S&P 500. I would not start a DCA into Bitcoin just yet. I'd like to see Bitcoin drop at least 50% if that were to be the case. You guys have to remember, Bitcoin's down 25% from highs, I believe. Yeah, 25% from highs. A 50% move downward would be all the way to 50K, which to a lot of us seems... Not necessarily a lot of us. I know to a lot of you seems impossible, but guys, we've seen crazier moves before. I honestly, speaking from, an area of integrity, I think it's over. I think the bull run's over. It's unfortunate. I think a lot of people got scammed. I think a lot of the meme coin hype was actually our alt season. And unfortunately for alts like Ethereum, there's just no legitimacy if alts are going to be complete waste. Not to mention, when you look at alt to Bitcoin charts, they look horrifically weak. They have not showed any sign of strength. All of them looking and extremely weak at that. I mean, you look at Link, Ethereum, Fetch. I mean, Fetch has lost support. You look at Solana, which is losing support. I mean, nothing is showing strength in the altcoin sector. So my biggest piece of advice, guys, is to stay completely away from alts unless you're shorting. There will be long opportunities on Bitcoin, but I wouldn't look for them on altcoins just because, look, I know there's going to be days that specific altcoins do well, but that's because they're down 50% and a relief is needed so it can continue lower. As I've stated a couple times, I know that this is technically bullish with the dollar breaking back into our range, but I think we're at like a crux of a much different macro environment, meaning, and I guess what I'm meaning here is, look, the world is changing. Right? The cost of living is extremely high. The interest rates are very high. Inflation's ticking back up. I mean, we had a whole list, and I believe they're still over here, or they're on S&P. Maybe I must have deleted them. But we have a whole list of macro reasons to lean particularly bearish for a little while. Do I think it'll fix? Yes. Do I think that there is a major buying opportunity ahead of us? Absolutely. But I also believe that a lot of this is because the world changed so much during COVID, and now we're about to see the result of that change. I don't believe that 2022 was that reset. I think 2025 and 2026 will be. And I've been vocally expressive in that for the last several years, guys. I've said that it's coming. There's some kind of reset coming. You can't have these 2-bedroom homes in suburbs that aren't in California or Florida that are $500,000. No one can afford it. No one can afford anything. So kind of hitting that reset button, restarting, and a lot of people are going to get hurt as a result, which is unfortunate. The weird thing is we have many industries which are still doing well, and I believe the job market's still relatively strong. So I think certain industries are going to get hit, definitely tech and definitely crypto. I do believe the altcoin bubble is starting to pop, but more emphasis on TA right now. Guys, again, I mean, total one losing support. I think this goes lower, right? I think how low, I'm unsure. It just depends on how low Bitcoin goes, but even still, like total 2 and total 3 just not showing really any sort of life. Yes, you could argue total 3 is bouncing here, but again, I think if Bitcoin drops again, this thing just nukes all the way down to like 600 billion. I think a lot of people are holding on to altcoins, hoping that they rise once again, and I don't think that they do, personally. At least not in the short term, maybe later down the line, but we have 20 million altcoins, and a lot of them acted as scams. I don't think a lot of new investors, especially people with money, want to join the space. As for Tether dominance, it does look like we have a pretty large double bottom here, which is unfortunate that it played out. We break above 6.5, and Bitcoin's likely going to see 50 to 60K. Right? I know I've gotten a lot of pushback on this. I get a lot of argument, but guys, that's what the charts say. This is technically a bullish reversal, and we're leaning more into a risk-averse environment rather than getting into, a lot of people buying Bitcoin. Plus, you have to put into perspective, Bitcoin went up 600%. 600%, right? There's this law of, and I don't know if the term is diminishing returns, but if you have a 100x, when we have a 20x, now we have a 6x, the trend, right? The trend in gains are going down. That's because value is going up, the market's becoming more stable and sustainable, and there's larger players at play, guys. There's institutions, hedge funds, big banks, and everything. What's up, Esther? How's it going? What's up, Dorian? How you doing? I want to swing long Bitcoin. I don't think it's necessarily time yet, and I'm about to deep dive into that now. And then we'll talk a little bit more on altcoins. So this is my daily. I went on Twitter, guys, the last couple days and said, look, we have price action going down, volume going up. I'm expecting this to drop to at least 78K. Right? 78K would be a nice level for me. We do have this kind of wedge thing. I just have it drawn for reference. I don't think it necessarily means anything yet. Unless volume continues to go down. Because if you look at where we started, so we start the drop here. If we end the drop here and volume continues to go down, there is a major reversal opportunity here. Now, I'm not saying re-entering into the bull run, but what if we get a reversal pattern down here at the end of our kind of wedge here, push up to 90K? I mean, you're looking at a 20% move, right? 23% move to be an excellent long to catch. So that's really my plan. Wait for that kind of bottoming structure to form. I don't think we've made it yet, and price action, again, for me, is leaning more bearish. Now let's look at the 4-hour. I have another couple diagonal lines here. They might be significant. They might not. I told Patreons over last week that even though we got this breakout here, I was expecting us to head lower. It just wasn't strong. Volume didn't back it up, and frankly, it was because the stock market bounced. So looking at a continuation to the downside, and speaking of, we've now rejected this area several times and heading lower. As for the 1 hour, I'm not super interested in the 1 hour at the moment. It just looks like, we had this little inverted head and shoulders. It tried to push up. It rejected again. It is now losing support and likely going lower. Right? So if you haven't caught today's theme, we're likely headed at least to 78K before a potential reversal. That's the area I'm targeting. And I'll draw a line so that way you guys can reference this on Twitter or in my Discord. And why 78K? I mean, for me, it just retests local bottom. Even if you get a reversal, a retest would be very positive. Again, I'd have to determine what this looks like with overall volume and price action before entering. Plus, we need other signals. We need reversal pattern. We need to be in a major level of support. You guys have to remember that this just went straight upwards. Struggled a little bit right here, but just went straight upwards. This has bounced around everywhere when it's trying to establish interim support and resistance areas, but we have no historical reference, so we can't say that like this is a level, or maybe this is a level, or maybe the 84.3 is a level. I mean, to me, this is such a new area. I'm not trying to put a lot of emphasis on it. Now, if we zoom out, we can tell that this whole area acted as resistance several times. So looking at a support touch somewhere between 74 and possibly 70, maybe even a wick to 68 would be kind of ideal for that reversal. Let's look at Bitcoin dominance. So again, this is my plan for Bitcoin dominance. I personally believe our bearish divergence is all played out. I'm not seeing any strength in altcoins. I mean, look, guys, we might bounce around a little bit before heading higher. I wouldn't doubt it. But at the end of the day, Ethereum to Bitcoin, Link to Bitcoin, and I went over this in the beginning of the stream, all of the alt to Bitcoin charts aren't showing any strength. It would be different, and I might change my opinion if this maybe makes a new high or a higher low and then a higher high, right? Then I'm starting to say, okay, maybe there's a trend change happening, right? Something like this. Yes, you know, you're going to miss a little bit of that Ethereum move upwards, but at least you have confirmation to start entering a position to capture some of those gains. Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit till then, but the numbers I'm aiming for are 60 to 75K, and I'm longing even if it touches lower. That's not too bad. Yeah, I mean, I would expect a significant bounce at that point. We've basically just headed lower, and the monthly charts definitely look ugly. Oh, here it is. I didn't delete it. I thought I didn't delete it. For any of you, other than the dollar reason, which is number 3, which I will remove, these are all of our reasons for leaning macro bearish, which I've expressed over the last several weeks. Yeah, this monthly chart looks, I mean, I guess you could say it looks like a breakout, maybe retest to continue. My issue is we're not really in a risk-on environment, and bullish news isn't pushing us higher. That's really what it did it for me, is the fact that we have the strategic Bitcoin reserve and Bitcoin dumped all the way down to 70, what was it, 76,000, 74,000? Pretty amazing. Very amazing. That's kind of your, and ultimately what I wanted to talk about today was, if you're looking for longer term positions, like longer term holdings like in the S&P 500 or Bitcoin, I would start getting money ready over the next 6 months to a year. Again, if the S&P drops a decent chunk here, like, you know, 52 or 5,000, that's still a relatively normal pullback. And the way you determine if we're done or if we're close is if the VIX breaks 40, right? We've seen several different times that the VIX being above that 40 indication has led to not necessarily the market bottom, but very, very close. You have obviously 2008. We put a candle above. You were about 10% off the bottom, ending up taking advantage of a 40% downfall. And then the little kind of sell-offs, I don't want to call them like recessions, but little sell-offs along the way, right? Where you're seeing those bottoms, taking advantage of those with dollar cost averages or just simply just entries. Again, the VIX being above this 40 level is definitely something to pay attention to. And even, I don't know if I'd consider this anything. I think this is a glitch. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know why that's there. But I'd like to see this like stable and then shoot up. This maybe come down. Okay, that's a good time to buy, right? We're also retesting prior all-time highs at that point. And I believe that'd be about a 30% correction. Now, I'm not saying that a 30% correction is needed to buy, but what I am saying is pay attention to this. And really what I'm saying is you should likely be selling some of your longer term holdings, especially if you were in Bitcoin at 15 to 20K. At least in my opinion, I don't think that the market's going to continue higher for the next 6 to 12 months. I think Trump's ripping the Band-Aid off now so that he can make adjustments and fix and throw out tariffs and do whatever so that things go up towards the middle to end of his term. Hey, anytime, Nomad. I'm glad you guys are all here. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. If you guys have any questions, I'll stick around and answer them. But if not, probably going to call it a day here. Not a lot has changed in the last, not a lot's changed in the last several days. with Bitcoin and the S&P. I mean, I guess the S&P last week lost some significant levels, but Bitcoin's just been ranging really for the last week between 78 and 84. Some are calling for 56K. I mean, I'm one of those people for sure. I think, and I think over the next 6 to 12 months, I don't think it's going to happen immediately. If you were to ask me what my plan is over the next 6, 12-ish months, I mean, probably something like this, right? Where we find an eventual bottom. I'm not saying it has to flow exactly like this, but I am thinking that things eventually drop. Now, interim, I do believe that we'll see a decent bounce. That'll kind of be the last opportunity to sell, and then we head lower, possibly going into like the 48K area. Primarily just like liquidate everyone and make them believe that the market cycle's over. Plus, that'd put us about 56 to 60% correction. That's what I'd want to see to re-enter. What are the chances of a short-term bounce? I think high, at least when we hit into the mid-70s. I think we will go to like 84, 85, possibly 90K. But unless we get above 96, I don't think we're going to hit all-time highs or go above. What are my thoughts on the FOMC meeting tomorrow? I think that I think inflation's still ticking up like they've said. I think that they're not going to put us in a risk-on environment for a decent amount of time. I don't think we're seeing the results that we need to see. I think it's only been 60 days Trump's been in office. I think there's a lot, and I don't even think Trump can fix all the issues that we're seeing right now. To me, like I said, I think if we're going to be risk off, I think certain industries are definitely going to take a hit. Do I think that the whole world is, screwed? No, not necessarily. But to me, I do believe that the Band-Aid is being ripped off now. And, we could see a 50% correction on the S&P. That wouldn't surprise me either. That'd be on like the high end of a correction, but this is what I'm looking at ultimately, regardless of any sort of subtle change. And I don't think FOMC is going to change a lot with my plan. Unless they suddenly find out that there's a quadrillion dollars amount of gold underneath like Texas or Alaska, I don't think anything's going to change in the interim. Plus, part of my problem is, and, morals and ethics aside, Trump bringing in or making America, make our own goods is going to increase the cost of living because now all these people are they're going to bring labor back into America, right? But you're going to have to pay these people, which is going to make the cost of those items go higher. Do you use stochastic RSI? It looks pretty bullish on the weekly. I do use stochastic RSI, but one indicator does not mean that we're going to go higher. Like this one indicator, and I'll show you an example of what I mean. We were bottomed out in stock here at 31K, and we dropped all the way to 15,000. And in the short term, we dropped all the way to 17,000, so almost a 50% correction. I wouldn't say that this one indicator means we're bullish. Not at all. And here you go. Here's another example. You're bottomed out here, or close to bottoming out here at 58K. We dropped all the way down to 30K. Right? You can't look at one indicator and say, oh, this looks bullish, so I'm bullish. Like, look at the overall market environment and what we're looking at. You have a major breakdown on the weekly and monthly. I guess, and this is something maybe I missed. I guess we had bearish divergences on this monthly. Kind of. Very slight. I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess you have bearish divergences here. It's really hard to tell. Man, for the last 4 or 5 years, we've almost always hit the same circumstance, right? 1, 2, 3. I was expecting us to go all the way to here. But apparently we didn't. So basically just sell everything on the short-term bounce. I mean, that's completely your decision. Like, I've already sold. I'm done. Like, I don't believe we're going higher. And look, if we do, then I'll eat my own words, right? I'll admit I'm wrong. That's fine. I sold for a 500% gain on Bitcoin, but I'm not really keen on buying anything, at least at this point. Because look, if you look at the monthly chart, we're at all-time highs. You don't buy at all-time highs. You buy at lows. What are your thoughts on Ethereum and Bitcoin? I gave that earlier in the stream. If FOMC is bullish tomorrow, is it realistic that Bitcoin bounces to 90K first? I mean, you're kind of asking me something scenario dependent. I don't think Bitcoin's going to 90K for a while. Maybe on a bounce that I'm seeing, like this is what I have drawn right on this daily, some sort of, interim bounce to like 85, 88, maybe 90, but I wouldn't count on it personally. And I don't think FOMC is going to be in crazy bullish tomorrow either. All right, guys, I'm going to end the live stream there. I appreciate you guys being here. Plan to stream tomorrow. I'll let you know if something changes. But with all that said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. Don't over risk. I would, again, stay away from altcoins.